In the immediate foreground of this rare picture, there was a fold of ice-burnished granite, traversed by a few bold lines in which rock ferns and tufts of brythus were growing. The gray canyon walls on the side were nobly sculpted and adorned with brown cedars and pines. Lofty peaks in the distance, and in the middle ground the snowy fall, the voice and soul of the landscape, fringing bushes, beating time to its thunder tones, and the brave sheep in front of it, their gray pines forms slightly obscured in the spray, yet standing out in good, heavy relief against the close white water, their huge horns rising like upturned roots of dead pine trees, while the evening sunbeams streaming up the canyon colored all the picture a rosy purple and made it glorious. After crossing the river, the dauntless climbers, led by the chief, at once began to scale the canyon wall, turning now right, now left, in long single file, keeping well apart out of all the another's way, and leaping in regular succession from crag to crag, now ascending slippery stone curves, now walking leisurely along the edges of the precipices, stopping at times to gaze down at me from some flat-topped rock, with heads held aslant, as if curious to learn what I thought about it, or whether I was likely to follow them. After reaching the top of the wall, at which this place is somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 feet high, they were still visible against the sky as they lingered down, looking down in groups of twos or threes. Throughout the entire ascent, they did not make a single awkward step or a unsuccessful effort of any kind. I've frequently seen tame sheep in the mountains jump upon sloping rock surfaces, hold on tremulously for a few seconds and fall back, baffled and irresolute, but in the most trying situations, where the slightest want or inaccuracy would have been fatal, these always seem to move in comfortable reliance on their strength and skill, the limits of which they had never appeared to know how or how over each one of the flock, while following the guidance of the most experienced, yet climbed with intelligent independence on a perfect individual, capable of separate existence, wherever it should wish or be compelled to withdraw from the little clan. Domestic sheep, on the contrary, is only a fraction of an animal, a whole flock being required to form an individual, just as numerous flowerets are required to make one complete sunflower. Those shepherds who in summer drive their flocks to the mountain pastures, while watching them night and day, have seen them frightened by bears and storms, and scattered like wind-driven chaff, will, in some measure, be able to appreciate the self-reliance and strength and noble individuality of nature's sheep. Like the Alp-climbing ibexes of Europe, our mountaineer is said to plunge headlong down the faces of sheer precipices and alight on his big horns. I know only 2 hunters have claimed to have actually witnessed this feat. I was so fortunate. They describe the act as a diving head foremost. Their horns are so large at the base that they cover the upper portion of the head, down nearly to a level with the eyes, and the skull is exceedingly strong. I struck an old bleached specimen on Mount Rider a dozen blows with my ice axe without breaching it. Such skulls would not fracture very readily in the wildest rock divings, but other bones could hardly be expected to hold together in such a performance, and the mechanical difficulties in the way of controlling their movements after striking upon an irregular surface are in themselves sufficient to show these boulder-like methods of progression to be impossible, even in the absence of all other evidence on the subject. Moreover, the ewes follow wherever the rams may lead, although their horns are mere spikes. I have found many pairs of the horns of the old rams considerably battered, doubtless a result of fighting, I was particularly interested in the question after witnessing the performances of the San Joaquin Band upon the glaciated rocks at the foot of the falls, and as soon as I procured specimens and examined their feats, all the mystery disappeared. The secret considered in connection with exceptionally strong muscles is simply this: the wide posterior portion of the bottom of the foot, instead of wearing down and becoming flat and hard like the feet of tame sheep and horses, bulges out in a soft rubber pad or cushion, which not only grips and holds well on smooth rocks, but fits into an extraordinary amount of both lateral and vertical movements, allowing the foot to accommodate itself still more perfectly to the irregularities of rock surfaces, while at the same time increasing the gripping power. At the base of the sheep rock, one of the winter strongholds of Shasta flocks, there lives a stock raiser who has had the advantage of observing the movements of wild sheep every winter. And in the course of a conversation with him on the subject of their diving habits, he pointed to the front of a lava headland about 150 feet high, which is only 8 or 10 degrees out of the perpendicular. There, said he, I followed a band of them fellows to the back of the rock wander, and expected to capture them all, for I thought I had a dead thing on them. I got behind them on a narrow bench that runs along the face of the wall near the top and comes to an end where they couldn't get away with the fall without falling or being killed, but they jumped off and landed all right, as if they were the regular thing to them. What? Said I. Jumped 150 feet perpendicular? Did you see them do it? No, he replied. I didn't see them going down, for I was behind them, but I saw them go over the brink, and then I went below and found their tracks where they struck, on the loose rubbish at the bottom. They just sailed right off and landed on their feet right side up. This is the kind of animal that he is. Beats anything else that goes on 4 legs. On another occasion, a flock was pursued by hunters retreated to another portion of the same cliff, where it is still higher, and on being followed, they were seen jumping down in perfect order, one behind another. 2 men who happened to be chopping where they had a fair view of them could watch their progress from top to bottom of the precipice. Both ewes and rams made their frightful descent without evincing any extraordinary concern, hugging the rock closely and controlling their velocity of their half-falling, half-leaping movements by striking at short intervals and holding back with their cushioned rubber feet upon small ledges and roughened inclines near the bottom. When they sailed off into the free air and alighted on their feet, but with their bodies so nearly in a vertical position, they appeared to be diving. It appears, therefore, that the methods of the wild mountaineering become clearly comprehensible as we make ourselves acquainted with the rocks and their kind of feet and muscles brought to bear upon them. The Modoc and Paiute Indians are, or rather have been, the most successful hunters of wild sheep in the region that have come under my own observation. I have seen large numbers of heads and horns in the caves of Mount Shasta and Modoc lava beds, where the Indians have been feasting in stormy weather. Also in the canyons of the Sierra opposite Owens Valley, where the obsidian arrowheads found on some of the highest peaks show that this warfare has been going on long. In the more accessible ranges that stretch above the desert regions of the Utah and Nevada, considerable numbers of Indians used to hunt in company like packs of wolves, and being perfectly acquainted with the topography of their hunting grounds and with the habits and instincts of the game, they were pretty successful. On the tops of nearly every one of the Nevada mountains that I have visited, I have found small nest-like enclosures built of stone, in which, as I afterward learned, one or more Indians would lie in wait while their companions scoured the ridges below, knowing that alarmed sheep would surely run to the summit, and when they could be made to approach with the wind, they were shot at short range.